Yeah, so a year ago, I actually lost my employment. And after losing my employment, I spent 6 months very actively looking for work and hoping to find the right fit. And because of my background, my history of struggles in the workplace, I wasn't successful. So I ultimately started a business in January, which is focused on fostering psychological safety and inclusion in the workplace. It's affected it in all of the ways, truly. The paralysis that comes with, am I the right fit? Am I good enough? Experiencing, looking at the qualifications and going, yeah, I could probably work here, and then going, oh, but I don't know that I'm okay with the rejection that's going to come if I don't get it, or if I do apply and then what happens? Or am I going to face some of the barriers that I faced in the past if I get this job? I'm currently working, but I'm also navigating the reality of employment as someone with a disability. Otherwise, my disability has added layers of complexity to finding meaningful work. My disability is invisible, and people don't always see it as like the effort it takes to show up. I have faced so much stigma and systemic barriers because of how people perceive me. I've been judged, misunderstood, or underestimated. And on top of that, navigating executive dysfunction, burnout, and trauma makes things like applications and interviews extremely overwhelming. As for employment supports, it's really been learning what's out there and accessing like education during this time. And so far it's been okay, but it also hasn't been very accessible for my disability needs of like, it's all online learning, for example, and really that in person is something that is really important for me. When I show up for interviews, I try to be honest and authentic, but that always hasn't been received well. I've had a hard time navigating the power dynamics that exist. I ask a lot of questions, and sometimes that can be perceived as challenging authority, but really it's to better understand like how I can do things. My curiosity and care isn't always welcomed in traditional workplaces, and I've had my intent questioned, been labeled as difficult, when in reality I was trying to make things better for everyone. I've definitely had previous employers who didn't trust in my abilities. I've been underestimated or had my capabilities doubted, even when I was exceeding expectations, which is and has been incredibly challenging. Now that I run my own business, the voices of doubt still linger, and I experience imposter syndrome on the daily. But the business I've built with my co-founder is based on trust. And so between the two of us, we acknowledge our humanity and support each other the best we can. Our goal is to help leaders and organizations to do the same. A really important accommodation in the workplace for me is a combination of written and verbal instruction. If there's a list of to-dos to be done, that conversation is incredibly helpful, but that follow-up with an email from our conversation makes a world of difference. It's also being mindful that the to-do list isn't too long, that it's reasonable, so I don't get overwhelmed. Paralysis with large to-do lists is a very real thing, and not always knowing how to prioritize what on those lists has been a struggle. So the accommodation to say, do this first, or this is needed right away, is huge. So the other side is being able to understand the why behind the task is essential for my success. If I don't understand the why, I really, really struggle to do it because I don't understand the purpose of what I'm doing. So having that background and that context is absolutely part of my accommodation. In the past, I haven't felt supported. I often had to fight for growth opportunities or prove myself over and over again. That's a big part of why I've transitioned actually to self-employment. It's to build the kind of workplace that I couldn't find. The moments where I felt part of the team is the ones where I was seen as a whole person, not just a number or an employee. Having space to connect on a human level, share ideas, and be heard made all of the difference. So much as a check-in, a good morning, how's it going? How are you doing today? What's on your to-do list? Yeah, that's part of, it's like, okay, I'm here, I'm a part of the team versus just sit down and do your job. What's made me feel included in the workplace a lot of the times has come from me putting in the work, but really it's been transparency, information sharing, and psychological safety, which are key. I feel included when I can ask questions without judgment, when I'm respected as more than just my productivity, Inclusion can be simple gestures, especially on those harder days, because you never know what someone is going through. When a coworker takes a moment to say good morning, again, it sounds so small, but it matters so much. I've been in times where people have just walked past me and then I feel like I'm invisible. So it's someone noticing that I've gone quiet and checking in. It's a culture where you're allowed to be uncertain, to show up on your bad days without fear, and that you'll be seen, and that fear of that you'll be seen as less capable when that's not fair. Disability isn't a personal failure, it's a systems issue. It intersects with race, gender, class, and so many other parts of identity. One of the more obvious responses here, and I'm sure has been said before and that you'll hear again, or you've definitely heard, is that once you've talked with one person with a disability, you've talked with one person with a disability. It's a fairly typical response to generalize your understanding of what disability looks like in the workplace because of your personal knowledge, lived experience, education background, or maybe what somebody has said to you. It's about challenging those assumptions, and maybe you've heard, okay, well, these are best practices when working with people with disability. Well, what does that mean? So unfortunately, because of that, it's often led to dehumanizing those individuals that you're working with instead of seeing that person that's right in front of you. Those assumptions and assuming that you know what's best is so harmful. People with disabilities bring insight, resilience, and empathy that you can't teach. We don't need to be fixed, we need to be understood. Be curious, be kind, and recognize your biases.